Hello and welcome to CrossTalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. Few U.S. presidents elected to a second term in office leave the White House successful or even popular. Barack Obama is a case in point. His poll numbers are low, his legislative agenda is in deep trouble, and Washington's friends and foes around the world do not take him seriously. Is Obama already a lame duck president? To CrossTalk whether Obama is a lame duck, I'm joined by my guests in New York, Chet Whye, he's a Democratic political strategist, and we also have DeBar. He is an anti-war activist and host of a daily radio program. All right, gentlemen, CrossTalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want, and I very much encourage it. Chet, if I can go to you first in New York, congratulations on your victory, the mayor race in New York. Breath of fresh air, a lot of people will say. But let's go to President Obama. He's got very low numbers in the polls right now, about 46. That's the lowest during his time in office. And a lot of people are saying at home and abroad, this guy just doesn't cut the mustard. He doesn't have the oomph to get his agenda through. And hence, he is a lame duck now. Agree or disagree?
Well, I really disagree. I mean, anytime you have 3 years left on a term, that's really too soon to make that kind of declaration in American politics. So Barack Obama has a little bit of distance right now, but he has some great opportunities to implement his agenda. Okay,
that was short and sweet. Don, do we have a lame duck president in the White House right now?
I don't know if a lame duck is an appropriate term. I'll go back to the issue of an agenda. I don't know what the agenda is. Part of the agenda was to bring health care reform. That's been done to a degree. I mean, there are issues with that. It's a step forward, a baby step forward. People elected Obama thinking they were going to get a single-payer health care system because that's what he promised. Across the board, looking at foreign policy, international affairs, war and peace issues, everything that he was elected to do, he's done pretty much the opposite. It's like a third term for George Bush, only on steroids. For example, in Africa, he's doing things that Bush would never have tried to do, invading Libya, bombing it for 8 or 9 months, all over the rest of the globe, the pivot to China, everything else. If George Bush tried to do that, you'd have thousands of Democrats out in the street in every little town in the United States. Instead, they're lining up behind him. But the agenda itself, it's unclear exactly what that is.
Okay, Chet, you want to respond to that? George Bush's third term.
Well, you know, we've been hearing that for a number of years, but I don't think all of that is valid. His health care agenda ate up a lot of the clock of the first term. And certainly there could have been some adjustment as far as how it was presented and how it was moved through Congress, but he was successful in a way that Eisenhower wasn't able to do it. You know, Kennedy wasn't able to do it. We talk about Johnson, Nixon, Carter, all down the line. None of these presidents was able to implement health care in any kind of reform, and he was able to do it despite the circumstances. We're looking at the second term, and we still have to get through immigration reform, which is a big ticket item, and I want to stay
well, okay.
pretty much
I mean,
with,
okay, but Don, if we look at healthcare, it's still not, you know, it's not in place here. As a matter of fact, it's far from being in place. One could even make the argument that Obama is still running in his first term because his great achievement, if you like it or not, is in his first term, but it hasn't come to fruition, not by a long shot, in his second term.
Yeah, but that's by its terms. First, let's correct the history. Okay, Kennedy started formulating and Johnson passed Medicare. Okay, that is a much more extensive health care program, perhaps not in terms of the age groups, in terms of demographics, but in terms of the depth of coverage and the number of people in the class. You know, people 65 and over, 62 and over, whatever, that were reached. That was remarkable because it came from nothing. What has been accomplished, or what is yet to be actualized, but what's been accomplished on paper under the Obama administration, is essentially a reorganizing of the private insurance industry. Nothing more. It's insurance re-regulation or the adjustment of insurance regulations. It's not creating a new health care system out of whole cloth. It's just requiring a little more give back out of a private health care insurance system that sucks most of the money out of the health care system. When Obama ran, He promised
Well,
single
I would
payer.
think that, I would
Let's go
think
to
that millions of.
Okay, Chet, jump in. Go ahead. That's CrossTalk. Go ahead.
Well, I would think that millions of the people who are now covered under getting health care coverage would tend to disagree with that. But let's look at some of the observations that we've seen of late. Especially the Forbes list that has put Obama as #2 in the power in the world against Putin, who is #1. And we look at this list and this observation. There are a lot of holes in the listing itself. Now, there are some places there that I think are pretty incredible. But there are some places where it is believable.
But Chet, I'm glad you brought up this. Chet, I'm glad you brought this up. You know why? That's why we're doing this program, exactly because of that list. And that's what I was thinking about when thinking about doing this program is leadership. Chet, I want to go back to you. Leadership. And this is the problem that a lot of people see Obama has right now. He doesn't have the leadership skills, okay? The presidency of the United States is very powerful. No one has any doubts about that. But is he powerful enough to use the office to get what he wants? That's a very simple question, and a lot of people say he's not up to the task.
Well, he is up to the task, and he is powerful enough to get things done. And this is where we have to examine this whole scenario. The president has been pretty much under siege by the Republicans since the first term, and they have deadlocked the Congress. But he has an opportunity now in what is about to happen in the 2014 elections to make a reversal. So we look at the Forbes list. It's a snapshot of right now. It's a snapshot of where the perception is of Obama and the perception is of Putin. I don't think it's so much a weakening of Obama when you look at the entire landscape of what has happened, as it is an ascension of Putin, and Putin pretty much defining himself on the world stage at critical marks.
Okay, I think a lot of people in the world would agree with you on that. But Don, it kind of belays my question here. Is Barack Obama a strong leader? Because gun control, immigration, minimum wage, Gitmo, I can go on. And I'm not particularly a critic of the president, but I looked what he ran on, what he promised, and he's come up short, big time.
Listen, there's some essential facts to the American political system that have to be considered even to frame this discussion, because the assumption underlying the questions and underlying the way we're looking at it is that Obama has a particular agenda that's being frustrated by the Republicans, and so consequently the reason that the things that people expected from him are not being actualized is because they're being obstructed, as opposed to identifying specifically what interests he represents, who put him there, who he's beholden to, and what his real agenda is. Now, when you're trying to figure out what someone's real agenda is, you take a look at what they've actually done. First, let's remember that for the first 2 years of President Obama's term, and for the 2 years prior to his taking office, both houses of the Congress were Democratic. Now, you had Obama eclipsing Hillary Clinton, in the primaries over the issue of war. The Democratic, the prime voters that went out and voted in the primaries, the people that swing, the constituents in that party, are against war. The American public has been polling since 2004 as being against the wars in Iraq, and I think 2006 or 2007 in Afghanistan, which still continues. The Democratic Congress had every opportunity in 2009, 2007, 2008, 2009, and 2010 to defund those wars, which was done with the Vietnam War. That's actually what ended it. And since the first 2 years President Obama was in office, he likewise could have done it. Instead, he did exactly the opposite. We are at war in more places now than we were when he took office.
All right, Don, let me go to Chet on that. Let me go to Chet on that. Obama's a war president, just like George W. Bush.
Worse.
Well, that sort of doesn't make any sense. I mean, we haven't had any episodes of shock and awe. We don't have, you know,
well, Chet, let's not forget about Libya. Let's not forget about Libya, Chet.
That becomes a little bit hard to fathom. And when you look at the numbers, Libya compared to Iran, it is, you know, pretty astounding, the imbalance there. So it's not the same situation.
Let me just correct you on something. Here, let me give you some perspective.
It's very easy to put it that way.
Okay, Don.
But it's not.
No. Go ahead, reply, Don. Go ahead.
Here, let me give you some facts. Okay, my friend, former Representative Cynthia McKinney, spent a couple of weeks in Libya while the bombing campaign was going on, and she was sending me reports, which I was forwarding out to my audience and to different news agencies. While she was there on one particular day, and while we were in touch, she was with representatives of the African Union who were there to monitor what was going on. Now, this is only in Tripoli this particular day, one of like 11 cities that are the major population centers in Libya. On that date, from 11:30 in the morning until 11:30 in the evening, 12 hours, they counted 83 explosions from bombs, each one the size, the equivalent of what happened at the World Trade Center in a city population of about 2 million, about the population of Manhattan. Now, that campaign went on from March until October and hit every city in Libya with a population total at the time of 6 million people. What he did to Libya made what shock and awe did to Baghdad pale in terms of tonnage, in terms of duration, and in terms of the extent of the destruction of the infrastructure. So don't say that was some minor issue. That was a major issue. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, it's the first time the United States
Chet, I'm going to let you reply. I'm going to let you reply after our short break. And after our short break, we'll continue our discussion on Obama. Stay with RT. Welcome back to CrossTalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter LaBelle. To remind you, we're discussing Barack Obama's presidency and whether he's a lame duck. Okay, Chet, let's go back to you in New York. Things are getting flaring up when we go into the end of the first half of the program, so please respond to Don. Go ahead.
Well, I just have a problem when the source of information is Cynthia McKinney. That's, to me, just a non-starter. But when we talk about this
the
president,
African Union,
we talk about the topic that we're here for, whether or not he is a lame duck president, and we're looking at 3 years to continue this presidency, and there are a lot of opportunities, and I think there's some opportunities presented, especially with the shutdown of the government by the Republicans. And this whole piece with Ted Cruz being the gift that keeps on giving. The American public right now is seeing Barack at probably his lowest approval rating, which is in the 40s. But when we look at the shutdown in '96 with Bill Clinton, his approval rating had dropped to 42, but he was able to rebound. Another thing to consider is that the Republican Party itself has only an approval rating of 22%. And when you look at Congress on its own, most of the American people have polled that they would rather see all the members of Congress replaced, and the congressional approval is at 10%. So 10% compared to the 42%.
Okay.
I don't think he's doing
Chet,
so bad.
Those are all fair numbers.
Those are in the 2014.
Chet, those are fair numbers. However, if I can go to Don,
here's the opportunity. I say that to say this.
No. But what I'm saying here, what you're saying is true about all those numbers. I agree with you. But Don, how does that help Barack Obama finish his term in office as a success? Let me go to Don now. Go ahead, Don.
Well, let me
Then I'll let you go back.
explain.
Don first. Go ahead.
I think that the numbers are irrelevant, and I think the invoking of Bill Clinton is very useful and enlightening. I think particularly for people that are outside of the United States that are watching this, there's two aspects to American politics. There's what they call retail politics, which is almost like watching a football game, a soccer game, or something where you have people on either side that are very emotionally involved, but it's really much ado about nothing. The real political aspect, the real material aspect of politics, of course, is policy. What policy decisions are made, you can study the mechanisms of that, but what actually comes out, what's the output, what the implications are for both this society and with the United States, for everyone else on the planet, more or less. Bill Clinton, after his numbers went up, for whatever value that had, turned around and brought in the 1996 Telecom Act, NAFTA, ended welfare as we knew it, basically began the decimation, the real decimation of the safety net in this country, began the real consolidation of the media in this country, began the real shipping overseas of American jobs in this country. And so, great, his numbers were up. He was the best Republican president we ever had once his numbers went up. And Obama's numbers are about as relevant in the same way. What policies is he actually trying to implement? And we can look at the window when he had both houses of Congress, and we get an idea.
Okay, Chet. Go ahead, Chet.
At some point, Don, we're gonna let me speak. But this is where the numbers are relevant. All right. The whole mood of the country is to throw the bums out, and particularly the Republicans. And in 2014, there's an opportunity to reset this whole political paradigm with bluing up the Congress as opposed to it being so red, and making it a situation that policy can actually start to move. So with this sort of situation, and the American public seeing Congress with an approval rating of less than 10%. I mean, I could go out here right now and I could poll, more people who believe that Elvis is still alive, and they can take that and move more Democrats go into the congressional setting. But this is with the knowledge of what happened with the lost opportunity in 2009 as far as moving agenda. So we have to set the stage that we get past this incalcitrance, that we get past this deadlock, and start moving some policy and start getting some cooperation from the Republicans. We have to respond to that.
Let's stay with policy.
Because their brand has been so badly damaged that they have no other choice.
Let's stay with policy.
Well,
Don, no. Let's go to Don now. Don,
I've really been waiting for immigration reform.
Well, I think a lot of Latinos are too, and it's probably not going to happen. Don, I mean, the perception from the outside looking in is that Barack Obama is just a figurehead for corporate America. He's more interested in their interests.
It's hard to dispute that based on policy. Let's look at immigration reform. He has deported more people than all prior presidents combined, and he's only partway through his second term. Okay, so what kind of policy is likely to come out? I mean, there's a charade that goes on that this is a compromise. The American politics, I know, is bewildering to people outside of the United States. You don't have ideological differences between the parties. There is wedge issue, matters that end up
You don't have ideological differences between the parties? Are you serious? Are you serious? You don't have ideological differences between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Come on now. You can't be. You can't possibly be serious.
Wait, listen. Hey, Chet, listen. In the rest of the world, the range of ideological differences goes from basically libertarianism to socialism, and not Republicans calling Barack Obama a socialist because he wants to give somebody a quarter in their cup on the corner, but the workers own the means of production socialism. Well, the state is owned by the workers socialism. Listen, let me finish. That's the range of ideological choices that are reflected in the political system. Let me finish, please. I didn't interrupt you.
That have flat out rejected socialism, Don. Yeah, I know how much you are attached to socialism, but you have major entities that are flat out.
Listen,
you're not selling socialism.
All right,
Okay, you want
all right,
to
all right, all right, all right, all right. Let me jump in.
Come
let
on.
me jump in. But Don, let me address Chet here. I mean, we have to take into account, and I think this is what Chet was getting to, is the Tea Party. Now they are very ideological.
I would
Go
ask,
ahead, Chet.
I would ask President Putin what he thinks about socialism.
Party.
I would ask President Putin what he thinks about socialism.
You're missing the point. You're missing the point, Chet. The point I was making is that elsewhere in the world, the political parties are organized around different ideological perspectives, and in the United States, they share the ideological perspectives fundamentally. That large corporations are allowed to exist, that finance is allowed to control the political system, that whenever there's a problem, we have to maintain the largest military in the world by far, and that's appropriate, that we have to maintain the largest prison system in the world by far. These are all areas, by the way, for example, the prison industrial complex. Barack Obama hasn't lifted a finger. You have a young black man being killed like every 38 hours in this country. It's actually gotten worse since he became president, and he's not doing anything about it. Nothing. There's a million issues like that actually affect the constituents of the Democratic Party.
If the parties themselves are so similar, if the parties are so much alike, then why is it that we would have this deadlock?
Look at policy.
Why is it? I mean, you're just contradicting yourself. Why is it that we would have this deadlock?
No, I'm not. You can have two guys trying to break into your house to steal your TV set, but one of them will block the other because he wants it. Okay, that doesn't mean that they're any different. They're both crooks. Okay, but
all right,
one
gentlemen,
wants their control over
we're fastly running out of
theirs.
time. I want to change gears here. One of the great criticisms of Barack Obama today is that he's not respected around the world. America's enemies don't respect him, and America's friends don't respect him anymore. Chet, how do you react to that?
Well, I don't see that. I mean, I don't see that as the great criticism. I think this guy is very respected, and wherever he lands on the planet, you see this enthusiasm with people who not only look to him for leadership, but also respect him greatly.
Okay, Don, but I think, when he was making a stop in Europe right after his election, he was welcomed as a rock star. I don't think, Chet, he's welcomed as a rock star in Germany today. Wouldn't you agree?
He blew it. He had an opportunity.
I don't know of anyone
who came into office
holds that sort of rock star status for such a sustained time.
Okay, Chet. I'm sorry, Don. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, just very quickly. When Barack Obama came into office, he had the opportunity, particularly among third world countries, of really showing a different side of America. And what he has done instead, by pursuing more aggressively than the last president, as that president did before and going back, the imperial policy of the United States in Africa, if you look at the way he dealt with Muammar Gaddafi, and look at what Nelson Mandela said about Muammar Gaddafi, he held him out as a hero. If you look all around the third world at the position the United States has been staking out under Obama in Central and South America, and how the people feel in those places where he could have done tremendous outreach and they were giving him the benefit of the doubt, the problem is that he wasted it because he pursued the interests that put him into power, just like everyone before.
Okay, we're running.
He's no different
Chet,
than Bush
I want to give
or
Chet.
Clinton
I want to give Chet the
whole lot.
last word on the program. To be fair, 3 years. What could Obama accomplish in the last 3 years of his second term? Go ahead.
The first and foremost duty of the American president is to serve the American people. And he did that with the delivery of health care reform. He did that. So it is for me, it is just unfathomable that you could say that he has no major accomplishment, and he does.
Okay, we still 20 seconds. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, when that actually comes into effect, you could say that much, except for the 25 to 30 million people that are still not covered.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for a fascinating debate. Many thanks to my guests today in New York, and thanks to our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time, and remember, CrossTalk rules.
I love you.